Check 1, 2. All right, let's do this. Hey, good afternoon. It is still Thursday, February 13th, and I am still Rob, that developer dad, and we are working in C# and .NET and Blazor, and we're using Azure OpenAI to build a not so simple anymore application that helps me create non-player characters for me to use when I am running my D&D games. And last week I brought this product that it's turned from a simple example project into an actual product that people are going to be able to subscribe to. I went to private beta last week, and then I started going back into the actual product code to add some of the features that I had triaged out. So the back half of last week and the front half of this week, we're on sort of managing your list of NPCs. And now that I've got delete and filter in place, this morning I started working on actually enhancing the information that we are randomly rolling for these NPCs, as well as, tweaking the AI prompt to incorporate this new information that we're creating, so that when it creates our more fleshed out descriptions, it's got more gum to chew while it does that work. This morning I started with basic personality traits because I need to refamiliarize myself with how I'm actually randomly selecting attributes and so on. It's been months since I last visited that code, and I wanted to start off simple before I get into more complex things like generating their actual game mechanic attributes, like their ability scores, health ratings, armor classes, etc., etc. Because that's going to be much more complex set of random generations than just picking out a few personality traits. So I'll do my screen share. Here we are. Boop. And this morning I added in this method in the generate townsperson process on the townsfolk manager, way down at the bottom, called generate personality. And I pass in the NPC, the selected species, background, and profession templates. And I'm going to use all of those to pick a personality trait that represents the NPC's sort of underlying nature, and then another one that picks their demeanor. And I'm going to have different lists for each. And what I've kind of come to, my kind of plan is, let's see here, personality trait array, natures equals, and let's use that spread operator, common natures. And that's all we're going to use for now. So rather than do this, I am going to just grab this, copy it, paste it in here, and that's it for now. And now, personality trait demeanors, we're going to use common demeanors. And let's just add, build out the lists of possible traits from common traits that could apply to anyone, regardless of unique factors. Traits that may come from cultural background, their culture, species, traits that may have developed in their past, background, traits that have evolved from their more recent experiences, profession. So before I can do that, I can actually 86 these 2 lines of code right here. Goodbye. And we'll go natures. And we'll go demeanors. Now, we've just changed some code. We've just changed how this function works. So it's a pretty good idea to rebuild and run it and make sure it still works. I'm just going to drop a breakpoint right here. I'm not going to go all the way through the AI description process or anything like that. I just want to roll a random NPC and make sure that it's still picking a nature and a demeanor for them. So we'll open up a new browser window, bring it over here so y'all can see it. Go to townsfolk, and let's just hover over these. Personality nature is adaptable, but they're grumpy. So run and views a browser. Whoops, wrong window. Here we are. And let's just go to new NPC. Go. They've got a perceptive nature, and they kind of present themselves to the world as a little bit silly. And I'll get rid of that because it's still obviously choosing. So that's obviously working. Thoughtful, friendly, adaptable, cheerful, curious, serious, patient, friendly, curious, and outgoing. Okay. So I've only got 10 options under those common choices that are available to everybody. So what I'm going to do now is we'll really quickly review the pattern that I stood up on the rule set. So this is iCharacter creation rules. I'm going to pop in here. We can close that because we don't need the API projects. We're going to need the managers. Don't need resource access so much. But I do need to come into, let's pull this over a little bit further so we can see it. So we've got backgrounds with 5e data. So out here on the character, it is very White Wolf. I have flat out said that I am borrowing this concept from the White Wolf gaming systems from back in the 90s. Before I go much further down this path, actually, let's open up Edge. Come on, Edge. What you doing? Oh, it's probably updating or some nonsense like that. Let's go have a little chat here. I'm building a product that generates non-player characters for use in TTRPGs. I'm currently working on the personality traits portion of these NPCs, and I really like the way White Wolf games used the concept of nature and demeanor in their character. Building process. Before I fully commit to this chain, to borrowing that concept for my generator, I want to make sure that I am not violating any intellectual property, patents, or copyrights. Part of the storyteller system, which is a proprietary game system, while the specific terms and mechanics are unique, the general idea of using personality traits to define characters is not exclusive and is a common practice. To avoid potential intellectual property issues, you might consider creating your own unique terms and definitions, core personality and public persona, instead of nature and demeanor. This way, you can still capture the essence of what you like about White Wolf's system without directly copying the terminology. All right, I can't afford to consult with a legal expert on IP. So, what I'm going to do, and this is a very, very good point. Thank you, Microsoft Copilot. And this question's kind of been itching at my brain a little bit in the background. So let's look at the townsperson class real quick. Go to definition. And what I'm going to do is personality nature. Core personality worldview. And I spelled that wrong, like a dope. Personality worldview. Oh no. You know what? I'm going to undo that change. I'm going to leave nature and demeanor as in place as the property names and stuff. And I am just going to change it in the UI. Townsperson, personality nature, personality demeanor. Cool. Save. And let's come out to the UI real quick. View NPC attributes. Worldview. With a capital V. And persona. Save. All right. That I can deal with. Temperament's a little odd because I'm not sure if that's surface or depth, but I like worldview and persona. Save. Now, I do want to come into the workload manager and provided nature, worldview, and demeanor, persona. Persona. Save that. Let's build Yeah, S's and mask are good words, but I feel like they're a little bit too abstract. And changing those property names, I would have to go in and rebuild everything in storage and all of that stuff. So I can't really change the code at this point. But NPC attributes, townsperson, what I will do is go to the definition and say note in for a future major version update, change this to worldview. Whoops, that's for nature. And change that to persona. Just to keep myself off of some lawyer's radar. Persona. All right, let's rebuild again. And I am planning a major revision of the internal code of how townspeople get generated and stored and everything like that. I'm going to probably do that stuff between finishing up everything that I want to do with the townspeople and standing up perhaps venue generation, because there's a lot of concepts and workflows and patterns that I can reuse, but I'm going to need to significantly alter the way townspeople um, flow through the current pattern to make it more generic for other features later. All right, and let's just run the app and see how that little terminology change affects what I'm doing. All right, I did close that browser window, so we'll reopen. Boop. And NPCs. Let's create a new one. Here we go. Worldview, patient, persona, grumpy. I dig that, and let's see what the language model does with that. Embodies a patient spirit, often taking her time to assess situations before acting. However, her grumpy demeanor can catch others off guard, as she can be quite curt in her speech. This blend of traits makes her seem unapproachable at times. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. That output works. White Wolf does not own those words, nature and demeanor. And the fact that I've used those as property names, that won't stand up in court. This is an homage. It is um, I would call this a derivative work, and it's already a derivative work based on the 5e SRD with some adaptations. Now, right now, I'm only pulling from these common nature traits out on the base 5e SRD rule set. Let's shrink up that UI. And we look at the character creation rules. And here we are. And there's those. Now, these will do as a start, but I think what I want to do is I want to improve these a little bit. And actually, instead of engaging Copilot, thanks for that suggestion. Now, can you please give me a list of 10 adjectives that could be used to describe a character's underlying worldview? Adjectives. Let's have, within this list, let's include 3 negative worldviews, 3 positive worldviews, and 4 neutral worldviews. All right, groovy. Positive worldviews, neutral, and negative. I am going to copy and paste these guys. Copy. 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 Neutral. Negative. And there's a reason I'm adding those comments to categorize these. And then finally for the negative, there we go. Those are great. Now, if you could please do the same thing, but with adjectives and adverbs, taking 9 of 12 suggestion, that would be applied to the public persona that an NPC presents to the world in their day-to-day interactions. Okay, yeah, it is definitely just adjectives, not necessarily adverbs. So I'm going to break these up again by positive, neutral, negative. And I'm just going to copy and paste, or you know what? Charming, confident, generous, reserved, professional, stoic, inquisitive, arrogant, aloof, grumpy, and I'm going to say awesome. Can you give me one more persona adjective that might, for each positive of positive, neutral, or negative, that would represent humorous. I'm actually going to reword that because that's fine. I'm going to copy. Come on. I actually want to grab this again. Grumpy is one of the seven dwarves. Grumpy could be one of the seven dwarves. A sense of humor or general goofiness. And you know what? Let's go ahead and say playful, silly, sardonic. Yeah, that works. I like that. Okay, so we've got things grouped out by positive, neutral, negative, both on persona and worldview. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm creating a couple of arrays on sort of the base rule set. So let's go back to the structure of my rule sets here. And if I look at the species 5e provider, it inherits from species data. Species data is declared up here. Excuse me. And we've got our templates, register, initialize templates, blah, 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 species templates. That's just a list of them. And then we load the species template from there. So let's take a look at species template. And that lives in the rule set definitions. We've got default gender choices, pronoun mapping, gender options, custom pronoun mappings, etc., integument colors, integument styles, skin colors, boogity, 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 boo. Here's our gender options. And this is just how we populate all of these things. Milestones, integument options, and let's start collapsing these regions. All right, now let's do species first. Give myself some empty space with which to work. Hashtag region, personality traits. and region. And let's take a look at these gender options. Add gender options, add gender option. Okay. I've got a public string array of gender options. That just does that. And let's set up a private read-only array of personality trait default world view equals array dot empty of personality trait. And default personas is that. Personality traits. This is get pronouns. All right, that's not what I need there, but how have I got it structured here? Public, array of objects, gender options. I'm going to say public, personality, worldview, options. We're going to return default worldviews, but we're going to leave this method open. Persona options. We're not going to do default worldviews. We're going to come back to that in a second. Add persona. Yep. And let's say option, option, excuse me. You know what? I'm going to pull these two private read-only properties out of where they're at and drop them in here. V. Now, private list of that and that. And let's go var options equals excuse me, default worldviews, and we got to get rid of that, and we got to get rid of that extra dot there, dot to array, and I need to say instead of var options it's got to be an array, not like that, personality trait array. Options. Now I'm going to leave these empty. Or these defaults on the species templates, or on the main species template. And personality trait options is default personas, custom personas to array, return options, save. Now, because I want to apply these, or this concept, to the other kinds of templates that I have. This is species template. Let's look at species data. What's this? iGame option set of a species template. Okay. Register species, takes in a template, lists them out. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that. Groovy. So here's persona options. I'm going to grab this whole set of stuff. And I think instead of that, instead of doing it this way, I need to add a new file. And it's going to be a class. And it's going to be personality options. I'm going to pull this out of species template. Just cut that out completely. Drop it into personality options. Paste. I'm going to fix the grumpy code. I've got to zip down to the bottom and fix my broken indentation, just because that drives me bonkers. And we're going to build a constructor, public personality options. We don't even really need the constructor. Save. Now let's come over to species template and private. Nope. Personality options equals new. And then I'm going to say public personality traits array worldviews public personality traits personas, and I'm going to change that to worldview option. Okay, pretty cool, huh? Now this, I don't feel too bad about firing up the copy pasta machine and applying it to the vocation template. Why doesn't the species template? Oh, it may have just added it right away. And then, of course, in the background template, we're going to apply the same thing. And fix that. Why is D&D always medieval themed? Because it started off its life as a fantasy / medieval era themed war game is how it started way back. Now there's adaptations of it where it's I've seen campaigns run in a more modern setting, but with all those fantasy elements. In fact, there's a campaign that I want to write that is set like here and now, but with all the fantasy elements from D&D. I just haven't taken the time to figure out, what mechanics I would need to alter, how to explain changes to our modern world so that it fits in with the game mechanics and so on. All right, so we've got all of my templates. Cool. Right now, totally unpopulated. Excuse me. Should be able to come back to the townsfolk manager and use this handy dandy spread operator to add worldview options. I don't know why it's insisting on doing that, but let's do the same thing here. And it's not demeanor, it's persona. Let's rename this symbol. Maybe it'll worldview options. Rename symbol to persona options. There we go. Common demeanor traits. Operate on variables of type range. Oh, duh. I need a comma. Persona options. We'll add in background template and vocation template. Those are currently empty. They haven't got anything in them yet. But I want to make sure that the app still builds and runs before I start assigning species specific or, species, background, and vocation specific worldviews and personas on each of those choices that already exist in the generator. So we've coded a little, we're going to test a little. Excuse me. Did I close that browser window? I sure did. That's okay. We'll just nav in from here. Here we are, townsfolk, new NPC, cynical, grumpy. Wow, okay. Pardon me. See how this guy comes out after I feed him through the AI. Personality, cynical outlook on life, years of disillusionment, grumpy demeanor, often makes her come off as unfriendly, lies a depth of wisdom and protective nature, especially towards those she cares about. That doesn't really jive with cynical. Despite her tough exterior, she has moments of unexpected warmth. Okay. What if someone wanted a robot? And they actually have those. They brought them in with the Eberron campaign. I want to say in the AD&D second edition or perhaps third edition, where you can actually play what's called a Warforged. If you've ever watched Full Metal Alchemist, Alphonse would absolutely be a Warforged character. Now, that prompt is not properly accounting for the aspects of the personality. Provided nature, worldview, and demeanor, public persona. Feel free to embellish on those adjectives based on their species, background, and vocation. Please maintain the basic sentiment provided by nature and demeanor when describing personality. Save. And rebuild. Did I close the... I did. I don't know why I started reflexively closing these browser windows. That was very silly of me. But let's see. Clicky-do. Bring it in here. Generate. Nihilistic worldview, but a silly persona. Oh, this ought to be rich. Let's see what it has to say. Quirky sense of humor that often contrasts with her somber outlook on life. She finds joy in the absurdities of existence, leading her to... Oh my gosh. This is way better. That one little instruction change on the AI prompt. Yeah. Yeah. Save. That prompt alteration is a keeper. Okay, great. Now, we're still generating, even though we're not actually getting any contributions to worldview or persona options from species, background, or vocation. And this is where the repetitive stuff comes in. And I ain't gonna lie, I am absolutely gonna lean on AI as I fill these in. 100% rely on AI to fill this stuff in. So I've got backgrounds 5e data, and you can see background acolyte template, background template charlatan, criminal, entertainer, folk hero. We've got all of these backgrounds, right? I'm going to have to refactor these out. AI is absolutely a factor tool or a helper tool. So I've got my backgrounds. I've got my species. There's fewer of these. Create template. All right. We've got create template, set age categories, set species options, and then register. We've got all that stuff. And then the vocations, these are also very, very simple. All right. Now, one last thing I got to do, and that's up in rule set definitions, characters, personality options, add worldview option, personality trait, add persona option, personality trait. Public void, add worldview options. Public void, add persona options. There's that. Close. Okay, that's all good. And I need to come back to in here. I'm going to open up backgrounds, species, vocations. I'm going to set up a couple of things for species first. But what I want to do before I do that is, because this initialize templates is getting really, really silly, I'm going to, where is refactor? Here we go. Extract method. And I'm going to change this to, who did we just pull out? Dwarf. Create dwarf template. Save. Drop that. I'm going to come down here and call this create dwarf template. Save. What's going on here? Why do I have that hanging? That semicolon belongs up there. Save. All right. I don't know why that's hanging out everywhere. This is evidence of me being a copy paster in the past. Here we go. Gnome, we can pop you up on a line. There we go. All right. First things first. In create dwarf template. Now, let's refactor first. Refactor, extract method, and I'm going to change this symbol. What did I just refactor out? There's dwarf. Here's elf. Rename symbol. Create elf template. And of course that failed. Elf template. Save. That's boring, repetitive crap. Let's dot personal, nope. I need to come back out to my different template specifications. So species template. I need to public personality options. And we're just going to do one of those. Yes. I've been using that analogy quite a bit lately. In that, with software development, AI is absolutely a productivity accelerator, but it becomes its utility increases with your understanding of what it's actually automating. And the way I like to explain it to people that are considering bringing it on in their own workflows and so on is that if you already know how to do long division, then it's really, really great to bring into your workload, because I mean, you already understand how long division works, and so you understand what the calculator is doing. And when you understand how something works, you also understand why and when to apply a thing to something you're trying to do. Personality options dot add persona options. Set up a handful of worldview and persona options that are unique to elves and elvish culture. All right. That's silly. List of personality trait worldviews equals new. List of personality trait persona equals new. Positive, neutral, negative. And Copilot, you're getting ahead of yourself. Apple I. Add one word adjectives to the how do I want to structure this prompt? Let's close that. Close this. Open this up. I've got species 5e provider. I also want to add the character creation rules using the patterns established in character creation rules where I created the basic commonly available worldview and persona trait choices. Let's set up a small handful of worldview and persona traits that are unique to elf characters. Let's add 2 each of positive. Let's add 2 positive traits, 2 negative traits, and 3 neutral traits for each list in species 5e provider dot create elf template. And let's see what it comes up with. Oh, look at this. Graceful, serene, ethereal, mysterious, ritualistic, haughty, distant. Apply it. Do it. Engage. Make it so. Accept. And I've got to go like this. And I got to add that. And I got to add that. And we'll boot that down to a new line. I don't think the to array is necessary because we're expecting an enumerable, and these are lists. So cool. Bonk. And bonk. Oh, come on. Save. And I'm going to take 2 minutes. I'm going to pull a be right back, and we're going to test this. All right. So the code looks good. Let's build. Oh, I dig this. I like the possibilities here. Now I'm going to come out to the townsfolk manager, and I'm actually going to add a breakpoint right here. F5 that. Pop a new browser. Pull it on over. Come into NPCs. Skip that one. New window. Oh, you dope. I'm such a goose. I'm going to pull this over like so. I'll go into like the quasi-mobile view here. And let's hide the debug window. Pop this over like that. I'll hide the right-hand panel so that we could actually see both on screen at approximately the same time. We'll have some overlap, but it'll make it easier to bounce back and forth. So let's spin up a new NPC. And we are dealing with a what? What's the species? Species is gnome. We haven't gotten the gnomes yet. So there's that. Let's show the options and pick an elf. So there's that. Roll them. Now, our persona options now have 20 items in there. And let's see. Let's see if I can just say persona options. Not person options, but persona options. It's got 20. So let's say string.join. I believe it's persona options. Color is ambiguous. Oh, you stink. Whatever. We've got a lot of options. So let's see. Personality nature is idealistic. Demeanor is professional. Go. And it's attempting to reconnect the server. Whatever. Go. If you don't go, I'm going. Idealistic, professional. Let's keep rolling. Pragmatic, serene. Nihilistic and arrogant. Imperious and aloof. Pessimistic but serene. Rational but ethereal. Oh yeah, I dig it. We can see those new elvish personality traits working their way into our generation. Now, I am not going to bother streaming the setup of these additional species-centric cultural traits. I'm not going to stream setting them up for background or vocation templates either. Now, a note on vocation and background. I think background, I'm going to add more traits to worldview from the background template than I do the persona, and vice versa for vocation. So like, as you can see on the elf template, I've added 2 each, or I've added a total of 7 new items for worldviews. 7? Yep. And then 7 new personas that are specific to elves. And I'm surprised I had, oh yeah, that's right. I had added additional personas to account for humor earlier in the stream. But I'm going to add probably, 7 each for worldview and persona based off of species. And then for backgrounds, I might add another 7 background choices to worldview, but I might add only 3 background choices to persona. Because the theory here is that one's background has less impact on their their current persona, how they present themselves to the world, than it does their actual worldview. And vice versa for, current circumstances. Their current circumstances has a bigger impact on their persona than it does their worldview. So I'm probably going to flip the ratios a little bit as I add those. And I'm going to do that stuff offline. I'm not going to stream the process of coming up with all of these adjectives in my collaborations with the LLM and all of that stuff. This is just tedious, busy work. So I'm going to lean on AI quite a lot for this portion. But I think this is a pretty successful experiment. I am going to get these trait lists fleshed out before tomorrow morning's stream. And then I'm going to consider the idea of adding some numeric weighting on these different worldviews and personas to make some more likely than others to be selected, if that makes sense. Because we could get really, really, really sophisticated. And after I've generated ability scores, I have a feeling that, where some of the ability scores land on the range of, say, 3 to 18 or whatever range I end up using for commoners, a lower constitution, health, might have a negative impact on worldview. A healthy, wise, smart, charismatic individual might be skewed more towards positive traits. But I want to make sure that the negative traits can always be chosen, even if the character's situation would skew them towards positive, because we've got a lot of strong, wealthy, highly intelligent villains in the real world and in our fantasy worlds. We've also got a lot of folks that are not that did not win the genetic lottery, did not grow up under the best circumstances, rise to become heroes in our stories and so on. So I definitely want to have the ability I want to have the possibility for those things to come in, but I still want to I'm considering adding some weighting to these different traits and so on. I may not. Like, as I talk through it right now, it gets really, really complicated in my head. I've got a numeric model in mind, but I don't know if it's really necessary. Sure would be cool to program, wouldn't it? All right. I've got a ton of work to do. I got to get the stream posted and so on. And I've got to sit down with my buddy Claude and get these traits defined. I'm going to finish out species first, then I'm going to do backgrounds, and then finally I'll start attacking vocations. And I'm going to see how much of these I can get through in between now and tomorrow morning. So until then, take care of yourselves and happy coding. Thanks for hanging out, friends.